All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our ACN internship preparation webinar. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping tips. You should have a control panel to the side of your screen. In that control panel, there are two important functions. One is your audio. So if you're having any trouble with your audio, you should be able to also call in. There's an option to use a telephone. So if you can't hear or you're having trouble with anything else, please feel free to use the telephone call-in number. The other important piece is the questions box. We will be taking questions at the end, and we'll try to leave plenty of time for that. But if you do have questions, please feel free to submit them throughout the webinar. We'll get to them sort of first come, first serve. So if you have any burning questions for ACN internship preparation, you can even go ahead and type them in now. And so then without further ado, we'll get started. Right now online we have myself, Stephanie Miller, and Zach Nolan, who coordinate programs for ALA graduates. And we also have Robin Sweetman, who is the Northern and Southern manager for Africa Careers Network. And so we're all here to answer questions. And we also have two students who have done a fantastic job getting internships, Ability Kakama and Sheila Chepulozzi, who will share their experiences a little bit later. But to kick us off, we just want to run through some of the basics of using ACN and what the internship cycle looks like. So excitingly, the cycle is actually starting this Friday, October 3rd. As of Friday, you'll be able to log on and see new opportunities that are for the coming year. A lot of them won't have deadlines yet, and you won't be able to apply until the deadline is established, but you can start researching different opportunities you might want to apply to. You can see people who had those internships last year. You can kind of just get a feel for what you might be interested in this year. Before you apply, there are a few things you need to do. One is you need to make sure your ACN interest profile and bio are completely filled out. And part of the reason for that is that we use that information when communicating to different partners about you as a candidate. So it's important for us to have a little blurb that's nice and neat that we can kind of pass on to give some background when we're also presenting your cover letter and your resume. Which leads us to the next thing you need to do. Please make sure you submit a resume and cover letter and upload them to ACN so that we have that on hand. Throughout the application process, you are more than welcome to contact Zach or myself or your ACN manager to get some feedback on your resumes and on your cover letters. But please have your basic one that you've already done either while you were on campus in your previous school or that you've done at your university's campus with your career center. Get something up there so that we have something to start with. The other thing that you need to do before you apply for internships is that you need to fill out your internship survey from this past summer if you did have an ACN internship this summer. And so these things are all important because until you've done all three, you won't be able to actually get another internship with ACN. So please make sure that you've got all your bases covered. You will still be able to apply for internships, but ultimately your name will not make it to the top of the file until you've done those things. So as soon as the application deadlines are up for different opportunities, you will be able to start applying for them. You do that just by clicking on the apply button at the bottom of the page for each internship opportunity. And the application process, it's sort of ongoing. We do say you should apply to internships as soon as possible if you know you want it, because then your name will sort of be at the front of our list of people that we're considering. If you are applying 2 days before the internship deadline, it's less likely that we can give you any feedback on your application. You need to apply at least a week before the deadline if you do want feedback. And it's also less likely that we'll have time to do some quick turnaround with you if there is anything we see you need to update or get into us. So please make sure you're applying far in advance of that application deadline. You also can apply to more than one internship. I know we get that question a lot. You really can apply to as many as you want. Maybe choosing about 3 to 5 to really focus on would be good so that you can put your efforts into those internships. But please do pay attention to the application criteria listed under each internship opportunity. For example, if it says that you must be a junior or senior at university in order to apply, don't apply if you're a sophomore. In the past, we've had people who have applied and we send their information into the companies and they tell us this person is great, tell them to apply when they're a junior or senior. So most companies do stick very rigidly to those criteria. So please do pay attention and don't waste your time applying for something that ultimately you can't get. Another example would be if it says only students who are permanent residents in a specific country can apply, don't apply if you're not a resident of that country. It'll just waste your time and ultimately we'll circle back to you and say, sorry, you're ineligible for this internship because you don't meet this criteria. So applications will be open soon and kind of running all the way through about February or March. And those deadlines will all be different depending on the opportunity. During about December and January is when most of the deadlines will be. So that's sort of the hot time to be looking and making sure you're meeting all of those deadlines as you need to. And then sort of for the application review and interviews, we'll be reviewing applications sort of ongoing as we get them. Once the deadline passes, we'll do some serious sorting through the applications to pass them on to the companies and partner organizations. That does take some time. Usually it takes about 4 weeks. So if you haven't heard back from us in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, don't worry too much. It usually means we just have so many internships that we're looking through at that time that we haven't been able to get back to you. But we do try to get back to people as soon as possible. And we will notify you if you are no longer being considered for an internship. So if you haven't heard from us, it means it's a good sign. We're still considering you for that position. Try not to worry about it too much. If you do have any concerns, for example, if you get an offer from one company, but it's not your first choice and you're waiting to hear back from another one, you can reach out to us and we'll update you as much as we know at that point. Most of the time, the reason you haven't heard back from us is that we just haven't heard back from our partner organization. So we can try to put the pressure on them as much as possible, but please do be patient during that process. So I think that's really the major overview of the timeline and the process for applying. Shall we open it up to the panel, Zach?
Sounds good. Thanks, Steph. So we have two great ALA graduates who've joined us today to talk about their experience applying for internships and what they've done to be successful in that regard. And so joining us today is Ability Kakama. Ability is an inaugural class member at ALA, and he's a senior at Berea College in Kentucky. Ability has had an IBM ACN internship, and also he's interned with Ascension Health in addition to a number of opportunities on Berea's campus. And joining Ability, we have Sheila Chukwulozi, and Sheila is a graduate of the 3rd class at ALA, and she's also a junior at Amherst College. And Sheila has interned with GE Africa twice. She's also interned with Enough is Enough, and she's also done a Lehman Summer Project Fund project this past summer. So Sheila's got a lot of ACN experience as well. So thank you, Ability, Sheila. Thanks for joining us. And so we'll go through a few questions to them, and then when we open it up to questions for everyone at the end, you can also ask them individual questions as well. Great. So let's start with our first question. What were the 2 most important things that you kept in mind when deciding on which internship opportunities to pursue? So Ability, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. In my case, the approach I take when I'm trying to pick internships, when I have more than one opportunity, to look at the kind of experience and skills that I want to build. That's the most important thing that I consider. So if I have an internship that has that promises to offer general experience, probably you're part of a team and you're going to learn on the fly. If that's the kind of skill you want to get, if I wanted to get that skill, learn on the fly, do various projects in a team, then I would look into that and pick that. But if I wanted, for example, to get skills in data analysis, I would look at another opportunity. If it has that, I would go for that. So to put this in perspective, um, for the past summer, I had an opportunity to intern with IBM and another opportunity to do work with in the energy sector. But with the work in the energy sector, I was going to be part of a team. There was no particular skills. I would get assignments as they come through. But then I looked at the stage I was at as going to my junior summer and what I wanted to have when I'm applying for job opportunities. And I thought I needed more skills in the area of finance, analytics, and things aligned to that, very, very specific. So that was one of the top priorities and why I actually ended up picking an opportunity with IBM. The second part is I think would apply more to juniors. If you're going into a junior summer, the potential for employment opportunity with the company, that was one of the second priority actually on my list. Whether there was a potential to secure a job or not weighed so much on my decision on where I wanted to spend the summer.
Great. Thanks, Ability. And yeah, like Ability was alluding to, a lot of companies for juniors, if you get an internship there for your junior year, somewhere after your junior year, a number of them will give full-time offers. So that is definitely something to think about if you're a junior. Great. So Sheila, what were the two most important things for you when you decided which opportunities to pursue?
Hello, everyone. Just reintroducing myself. I'm Sheila Chukulo Zie. And as Zach mentioned, I've had a lot of experience with ACN. And the two most important things that I remember keeping in mind when deciding what internship to pursue are, first, exposure to real world experiences, and then alluding to that, which is second, a structured program that would give me tangible skill development. The second one was most important for me because I realized I'm a very indecisive person in life. So I wasn't at that point in time when I went into my first internship, I was considering 7 majors, all equally. So I knew that I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I still needed some skills. There were some skills I wanted to develop. And in terms of like leadership and just things that I was interested in without really knowing what specifically I wanted to do with it. For instance, I was interested in social media. I was interested in talking to people, young people, communicating with people. And so I expressed a desire to learn about those things, but I knew because I was so indecisive, I couldn't just go into an internship that would be unstructured. I felt like I would be lost if I would be in that kind of internship. So I had to find an organization that was going to give me the proper guidance to actually give me skills to live with so that I feel like I have more confidence to make a decision of what I want to do. It's not a decision made on what I cannot do, because I feel like instead of saying, so because I cannot do this, I will just leave that passion behind. No, I wanted to know that I could do it. So my choice is more like, okay, so what do I prefer to do? What do I really want to do more than other things? And GE really gave me that. GE has this program called the Pre-Early Career Development Program. GE is really, not to take this opportunity to advertise, but GE is actually a fantastic leadership builder. Their programs are they're structured in a way, even if it's not a structure that is like a school structure. They're structured in a way that the company people understand what interns are there for, and therefore they give you the best of their attention and their time, and that also makes you more exposed to real world experiences as a corporate person, as a person working in that kind of sector, not just as an intern trying to get coffee for someone else. Like it never happened to me. So I got those two things from GE, and one was leading to another, which also helped.
Awesome, great. And so it seems like a lot of this is planning too. So finding out what skills or what things you want to get out of these internships so that you can apply for the right ones. Sounds good. Um, so we will move to the next question. And Sheila, I don't know if you want to take this one first this time. And the question is, what were the two most important things that you did to prepare for the internship application process?
Yes.
So Sheila, take it away.
The first most important thing was I Googled. Google is your best friend. I cannot exaggerate this enough. You know, I just want to write letters to Google thanking them every day because they have saved my life on so many planes. And I think it's important because in terms of searching or researching, because I didn't just go straight into researching the company or researching the internship. I really searched a lot about my own interest. I in Google, you like if you Google can give you all answers. Like, what happens if your cat turns pink? Google knows what to do. So it was just basically putting in the most random things about things I was interested in, even if it's a sentence. Like, what do people who do social media do? Or what do people do with social media? Or if you're interested in coloring, what is a good job for you? I mean, yeah, courage is beside me and he thinks I'm crazy, but this is true. I was able, and from there, I was really able to see a world of opportunity beyond what I thought had existed. It gave me the confidence to say, okay, my interests are actually making sense. Like, these are things that people are turning into actions. It's not just, I'm not crazy. And there's nothing more fantastic than finding out that you're not crazy. You just have a more expansive way of thinking or something like that. And as what Zach was saying, that helped me plan my interests to know, okay, this is really what I want to do. And this means that, like, I put almost like a diagram where I knew the starting points that I was at in terms of, okay, this is how I'm feeling. And Googling or researching on those things gave me access to see, okay, what I could become. Then I had to find different routes. I had to say, okay, this is one way to go to get there, and this is another way to go to get there. And what makes the most sense for me in terms of what is easier for me, or what is the best thing for me, even though it might not be easier, it might be harder, but what is it faster for me to get there? Do I want to get there fast, or do I want to get there well? Making those different priorities. Is it the time, or is it the level that I want to focus on? Having that sort of diagram or that mind map really made it clearer for me to prioritize and say, hey, I'm going to apply for this. Because even when I found out about GE on ACN, I didn't know what GE was. Like, funny enough, I know GE makes everything, but I didn't know who they were. But I looked at the skills. I was looking more at the skills that the internships were looking for. I was looking more for what this company said they wanted, which means that they would be more focused on putting you to tasks that would develop those skills. And that was how I chose my internships. And the second most important thing I did to prepare for the internship application process was also researching how to apply for internships. I was Again, guys, just Google. Like, I was researching so much on what it is, like what people want to see in their cover letters, what people want to see in their resumes. I opened up about, I'm not kidding, about 30 tabs on things like cover letters. I looked at images of cover letters in terms of the arrangements. I looked at people talking about cover letters. I looked at Forbes articles on people writing about cover letters or resumes. And I remember one very important one. People are making very creative resumes and cover letters. And I remember just looking at those really extra creative ones really incited me to think, okay, how can I actually make mine more creative, more myself, but still more professional to the standard of the company that I was applying to? And one of the things I remember doing was in my Google cover letter, I had a line, the line separating my address from my main letter. I had a line that I had colored in Google colors, like blue, red, green. It was a very small line. But I just thought, oh, I would never have thought about that. And again, I don't even know if it was important, but it just gave me the confidence to feel like, okay, I feel like I definitely stand out in this application pool because just for this little thing. So those are my two most important things.
Awesome. Thanks, Sheila. And Ability, what were the two most important things for you as you prepared to apply for internships?
Yeah, the two most important things I think were I'll start with the first one, then I'll mention the second one later after I'm done with the first one. The first one was taking stock of my skills and experience, and I think this is a good practice to do at the beginning of every fall semester. I sort of look back at the internship I just completed that summer, whatever I was doing. I try to put that new experience on the resume, and I think about what would I want to do next the coming summer. And I look at the experience and kind of skills that uh, internship or job that I'll be looking at for the next summer requires. And so I sort of do a comparison of, so you do, first of all, do a stock of your skills, update your resume, and then take that resume and sort of try to weigh it against the skills and experience you have, against the kind of skills and experience that the position you're going to be applying for is going to require. And then ask yourself, does it sort of seem to match? Is there something I actually do have experience or skills for that I haven't articulated that well yet? And sort of make that review. And in addition to that, when you've found out the experience and sort of updated your resume according to what you want to do next, go ahead and make some form of a master, sort of a master cover letter that is not particularly addressed to a particular company, but it addresses the kind of position that you want to have. And when you are trying to customize your cover letter, when you're actually doing an application, this becomes the place where sort of you start your composition of a cover letter depending on the particular position that you're doing. So that's the first approach that I tend to take, sort of look at what skills and experience that I've actually gotten from the past experiences and job opportunities and the internships that I have had, try to look at what is I want to do next, update that and make sure that it reflects the best it can and matches, and then I make some form of a master cover letter. And the second one is searching actually for the opportunities. With this one, I would say it's preferable to start early because the process itself evolves as you get feedback on the positions that you were actually applying for. So you might have your very first choice. If it comes through early enough and you know that you're going to obviously take that role, that ends your application process early on. But if not, if it doesn't work, then that gives you enough time. If you started early enough and you're getting this feedback as early as possible, it gives you enough time to pivot and look at what is next or what did I do wrong. But if you're doing everything last minute and all your applications are going in sometimes in late February or March, you probably won't have that much of enough time to pivot and look at another opportunity. So I'd say beginning the search early enough and actually sending in applications and acting on the feedback that is coming through is a very important thing to do. It also gives you the opportunity to actually talk to your contacts as you get the feedback. If this didn't work out, then you know somebody else somewhere. You talk about you figure out that you actually can talk to them and you can figure something out. So the lead time, give yourself quite enough lead time between your applications and the beginning of the internship.
Awesome. That's really good advice. Definitely start early. Hear a lot of this Googling things, finding out what you want to do, writing cover letters, that takes time. So definitely start early. Great. So last question before we talk about resources and then go into the Q&A. Ability and Sheila, is there one last piece of advice that you would give to ALA graduates or MCF scholars who are applying to internships through ACN? Ability, do you want to go first? And maybe Ability, you could also talk maybe for our some of the older students, sophomores, juniors. Is there anything in particular for them going into their junior, senior year?
Um, I think I would say particularly if you are a junior, the junior summer is a very, very important summer. And I would say try your best to get, especially if your plan is to go to work, to start working after you graduate from college. It's very important that you do an internship. Now, a number of opportunities might come up. Uh, some people get opportunities to travel or uh, to do a summer study abroad, but or go in some. There are some fellowship programs that run over the summer. But if your goal is to start working after graduating from college, probably the best thing to do for the junior summer is to find an internship, and actually an internship that you think matches the kind of skills that you have been training for and the kind of job opportunity that you actually want, and with the kind of company that you think mirrors the kind of place you'd like to work at. This is very important because chances are that, not chances are, this has the more chance of leading to your first job. So look at it that way and give it the required level of weight and consideration. That's what I would say. Um, for sophomores, probably the pressure is not that much on what is next after college yet for them. But I would still say spending a summer, getting experience and building skills is the summer well spent. But probably the pressure is not as much sort of as when they're junior here. And that would be my advice.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ability. And Sheila, what's one last piece of advice from you on the internship search?
On the internship search, I just want to say that the company matters, but not as much as we think it does, I would say. I think we're in control of our internships more than we think we are, or we have the ability to control, or the opportunity, I would say, to control our internships. For instance, I mean, my internship I basically had to design what I wanted to do for my internship. One very important thing, I remember my boss telling me this. I had actually, for my internship this summer, I think I had done this again because I had worked for GE before, but I think this is a good strategy to have. I wrote a letter to my boss, or the recruitment people and my boss as well, telling them what I really wanted to do. So after the cover letter and all that resume, when they told me they were considering me for the program and they just needed to finalize a few things, they told me, I wrote a letter to them saying, this is really what I'm interested in. It's what I would love to do. And I know that you might already have plans for me, but I just want to put this out there so that you might be able to consider it. The confidence and the just the idea that you already know what you want to do makes them understand that you're taking the internship seriously. Like that you're not just trying to absorb whatever they throw at you, but you're actually taking an extra step to be of value add to the company, while also finding ways that you can find value for yourself in the company. She really appreciated that, and she told me that she did. So I think that is a good strategy, which more people can do, because writing that kind of letter, first of all, will have to do with researching the company and knowing the kinds of resources that they might have for you to be able to do that. And not even in that, that can help you also decide in case you have two opportunities which are really tearing you apart. Writing that kind of letter and getting feedback from them and seeing if they're saying, oh, this is fantastic, or one of them is saying, yeah, we will be able to do that, or we want you to do more of that. That can help you really see where you're able to be of, I don't know, more value, or it's be more value to you of where you should be. I hope that makes sense. I think that's one major advice I would give, and find ways to talk to more people, network out of your interests. Even though you might not be interested in a thing, it's nice to want to talk to people from other companies. Not, you might not get to work with them for 3 months, but then sometimes things intersect. I remember during one of the Indabas, someone from Stanbic IBTC came, but I was working with GE then. But then I went to speak to him, and he talked about something about social media, and I collected his card. But he wasn't the one in charge of social media, but he put me in contact with someone who was, and I got many of my ideas, which I used for my strategy for creating the GE social media strategy, just by talking to that woman in Stanbic. So it's really great to build networks across. It's really nice for you to want to build networks across companies by asking the ACN people if there's anyone they know in this company that you might just want to talk to about your concerns and your interests. That sort of thing really helps. It makes you more knowledgeable about what you want to be doing.
Definitely. And talking through with people, even your peers or other professionals, help you kind of figure out what skills you want to get, what you want to get out of an internship. Helps you put your thoughts together. That's great advice. Thank you, Sheila, and thank you, Ability. Sheila and Ability will still be here. If you do have questions for them individually or for both of them, feel free to type them into the box, and we'll get to those in just a second. One last bit of information we want to give you before opening up to questions is to talk about some of the resources that are available to you as you start to think what internships you want to apply for. You start to put together your applications and actually send them in on the ACN site. So I just want to go through a few of the options. One is the ACN website itself, and specifically the ACN Learning Center. And so this is one of the tabs when you log on to the ACN website. You'll see one of the tabs at the top. I think it's at the far right, actually. And if you go to the ACN Learning Center, there's a number of resources. There's guides for cover letter writing. There's different guidelines for what you should do before your internship, during your internship, afterwards. There's also recordings of webinars like this one that will give you some insights into specific skills, into specific industries as well. You record all these webinars and you post them in the Learning Center, so you can go back and watch them if you'd like. So the Learning Center is a really great place for you to go and kind of explore as you start to think about what internships you want to apply for. So I would definitely recommend checking it out. In addition to that, there is normally on most universities and colleges a career center, some place where you can go as a student and get info from them. It's a little bit difficult if you're looking, as we hope you are, to apply for internships in Africa, because a lot of these career centers only have U.S. specific information if you are studying at a university in the U.S. So in that regard, they may not be as useful, but they would be great for helping you with cover letters, resumes, great for talking through what kind of internship you want, or thinking about the skills that Sheila and Ability both mentioned. So going there and checking it out is definitely a great idea, and we recommend you do that as soon as possible. It's right there on campus, so it's pretty easy. In addition, you can talk to your ACN and ALEF coordinators. So you should all know if you're an MCF, you can talk to Ansi. Actually, I didn't put her out. But if you're an ALA graduate, you're in Northern and Southern Africa, you can talk to Robin Sweetman. Western and Central, Theo Sutherland is your contact person, and for Eastern Africa, at the moment, Sharmi is your contact person. So feel free to reach out to these people if you have questions about internships in the regions that you're from, or if you have questions about applying or really anything. And also, if you're studying in the U.S., you can reach out to myself or Steph, who are your ALF coordinators, and we'll be helping you a lot, especially with cover letters and resume editing. But we also have some great insights if you are looking to apply for internships, or if you're hoping to actually apply for an internship in the U.S. for the summer. We can help with that. And then finally, something I didn't put up, but there is an ACN Facebook group. You all should have been invited to the Facebook group, but definitely join that. Keep posted on that. We post things about webinars and deadlines and all kinds of information. So keep your eye on the Facebook group. Read the ACN emails that come out so you can be prepared when the deadlines start coming. Great. So Steph, can I turn it over to you for some Q&A?
Definitely. So we do have a couple questions here. I noticed that a couple people also are using the raise hands function. If you are doing that, please do type in your question. It's just a little bit more efficient for us to make sure we get to everyone in a timely fashion. So please do type in any questions you have now. The first question is, how is it best to think of internships if one wants to use the internship period to collect data for thesis research? I can take a stab at this one, but then Zach or Robin, if you have anything to add. I think if you're using it as a junior or as a master's student to do research for your thesis, you probably are not going to necessarily find the perfect internship on ACN. Most of those are really job experiences for students. So I think you would have to really look at different organizations that are doing things that you're researching and then come up with proposals for them, especially if you're not going to be working in a traditional fashion, but rather you'll be collecting data or administering surveys or things like that. So I think it's a very different type of internship, and probably the best place to start would be with your thesis advisor and other professionals who have connections to your university within the field that you're researching. Zach or Robs, anything to add on that one?
Yeah, I would just say a lot of students do actually do internships on their university campuses, especially if they're interested in research and specifically like science or health. They'll do lab research internships on campus, and that's a great opportunity. And that may be something that you'd be more interested in if you're looking for help with your thesis, if you're in chemistry or biology or something. Yeah, something we didn't mention. ACN is a great place for internships, but you should also be looking at other places. Your career center I mentioned, but you can be looking online. You can be talking to professors. You can be doing some of the networking Sheila mentioned. ACN is definitely not your only option for an internship. So we definitely recommend looking at other places too, especially if what you're looking for is not necessarily on ACN. Anyone else want to add?
Sure. I would just add that if you're doing research on more humanities-based things and less scientific-based things, it's a good idea to chat to either your regional coordinator or your ALF advisor, because sometimes we have links to research-type internships or internships with research houses, and they might be able to give you a better idea. You may be able to use that as a research base if you do what Sheila so helpfully suggested and start early and say, look, this is what I'm interested in. Is this something we can do? So always, when in doubt, chat to the people in the ACN and ALF teams and see if there's something we can connect you to. Otherwise, using other resources might be your best choice.
And I also think that finding out or sort of putting out this question in things like the ALA Facebook pages or the ACN Facebook pages really help, because I actually know a couple of people who are not science-based but have actually went into the internship program thinking about using that experience for research on their thesis, and one of them seems to have been very successful at that. So if you just put up that question in one of the social media platforms that ALA has greatly sort of put together, I think that there will be a lot of answers.
Awesome. Thanks, team. Great answers.
Great.
This next one I think is more for you, Robin, if you could take this one. Is it possible to start my application through the ACN website, save my work, and return at a later time to complete it?
So unfortunately, we don't really have that function at the moment. What you can submit an application requesting feedback, and then you can submit another application at a later time, but there's no way to really flag that that's a draft or that you are going to come back later at this point. So unfortunately, that's not something we have the capacity to do at the moment, but we are in the process of updating the website and the functionality that we can do. So if you have any other suggestions of functionality that you might think will be more helpful on the website, please do send that through to me for now. If you have, please do send it to me. I would be happy to collate that, and if that does seem like something a lot of people would want, then we can definitely look at including that functionality as we go forward.
Thanks, Robin. The next question is for Ability and for Sheila. how do you turn down an offer or choose from several offers? And I don't know if either of you have had that experience, but if so, can you share?
I have had to do so before, and I think it's the most important thing I would say is to be courteous and respectful when you are turning down an offer, because as far as you got another offer that you chose to pick, it also means these people that gave you an offer, they spent a lot of time considering your application, and they were looking forward to have you join them. So when you're telling them that you won't be joining them, let's be mindful that that's something that is a little bit not preferable. So be respectful and kind, use a nice language when you communicate back. And I think it's important actually that when you turn down an offer, to communicate back and inform them that you are actually doing that, other than leaving it in the air saying, I'll just take another internship. And so really important to let them know, but do so in a good and careful language, and be grateful for the fact that they actually had considered you and gave you that opportunity.
I've also had to turn down an internship before, and I did it through email, and then I first of all stated how much I really appreciated the offer and why I wanted to work for the company. So it's not that I've lost my respect for the company. It's just that in terms of what I realized my specific goal is, I think that this route might not be, I don't know, good enough in terms of is it the speed or is it the direction, but just be specific and be clear, because they don't really want they don't like BS. Like they don't like any fluff words to make them feel better. I mean, the fluff is more in like saying, I really respect you, but then this is what because also stating and being assertive about why you've made that choice makes them want you even more. It's like, oh, so you're so assertive, you already know, meaning that she's going to be, or he's going to be a value add. And just thinking back to it, I wish but if I have to turn down an internship now, I would rather do it through an actual conversation, maybe on the phone or something, rather than an email, because there's always that opportunity with every conversation, whether it's to turn down or to accept, there's always an opportunity to sort of show yourself and have a conversation, which is by saying, even if that person's company, other person's role in the company might not benefit, but the person has other personal interests because they're a human being. So there are other things that the person is interested in that might intersect with what you're interested in. And then both of you can still work together on something in terms of the person can easily become your mentor, or the person can introduce you to other people, but you're still explaining or just saying why you cannot take the internship with the group or the organization. So that also helps.
Mm-hmm. And this is also definitely something that your ACN or ALEF coordinator is going to help with, especially if you don't know how to approach this, or if you don't know if the right tone of your email is as respectful as Ability mentioned. You can run that by your ACN or ALEF coordinator. They can help with that. It's especially also important to do it in a timely manner, like they both mentioned. You don't want to leave an internship hanging for a while because you're waiting on your first choice internship. You do want to give them a decision in a timely manner in a number of weeks. If you are still waiting and you don't want to say yes or no, this is something you should tell your ACN or ALEF coordinator, and they can help you with that, or tell you that, yes, it's time to make a decision. Because it's not nice to keep people waiting so long.
Perfect. The next question is also for Sheila and Ability, and I'm not sure if this applies to you guys, but please chime in if it does. For students who travel to an internship in a country outside their home country, what was the experience like in securing accommodation and finding your way around in a new country?
It does. I spent the last summer in South Africa, and I am from Tanzania, so it was a new place as much as I'd been there for 2 years. in school. I think it's very important to try and work out issues of accommodation and transport. Try to get an understanding of how that is going to work out, because they will also determine whether you can, whether your stipend, or if you are funding the internship is not paid and you're funding it yourself, if you can afford to actually take that internship opportunity. So it is very important that you contact people who you think have information, go online and read up neighborhoods that you think can work, and make sure you have it figured out, and the earlier the better. Like as soon as you know that you'll be going to that place, start working on it and trying to figure that out. Also, if you know other people who are going to the same place, it's important to get in touch and work together as a unit, uh, because with things like accommodation and transport, sometimes it helps if you're purchasing them as a unit rather than just an individual. And that's sort of how we worked out the plan ourselves. There were two other interns working at IBM during the summer, and we tried to sort out transport and accommodation together. And you can also ask your company if it's covering those things or what is going on, but make sure you have an idea of that's going to happen.
On my side, I have not traveled out of my country because I'm such a patriot. I haven't done it, but I know people who have. And one advice I would give you, just a tangible advice, if your company offers you accommodation, that accommodation might be a more expensive one than you can afford. With this case, the company was offering accommodation, but then it was taking out of the person's salary to pay for that accommodation. So while it seems easy in terms of, I mean, my company is already providing me with this, you can actually be saving more if you find a way to get a cheaper but still good enough place to stay that will save you a whole percent of um, your internship pay or your paycheck. And another thing is also, like Ability mentioned, doing it on time. There are lots of complications that come with staying elsewhere, and sometimes people change their minds, which is always one of those things that will leave you stranded. So it's very important to have more than one option, so that if you on the last, like not the last minute, but then close enough, you can now say, okay, so I won't be staying here because of this and that, because I'm sure that this one is secure now. Because sometimes, about if you've talked to someone maybe 6 months before, in 4 months or in just 2 months before you get there, that person can say, you know what, actually, I'm deciding to travel. And what happens then?
Thanks, guys. The next question is again for Ability and Sheila. What was the environment like at your internship, and how did it affect your performance?
The environment in my internship, it's very difficult to talk about my internship because mine was a bit complex because I worked with GE twice, but the thing was I worked with two different departments. So those departments also had different environments, but it's actually the same office and in the same country. But I think the environment of my internship was very supportive, and it was free in a way that was very great for me to thrive in. I like feeling like I have a choice over what I do, and I like feeling like people are actually taking me seriously. And that was the environment I was in. It was almost like, okay, you're an intern. It doesn't mean that you're lesser. It just means that you're here to stay for less time. And maybe that's because people thought I wasn't an intern. Like, people didn't know I was an intern till I was leaving. So maybe that's one thing, I don't know. But I know that once you come in and you decide how you want to come in as, you decide what you want to achieve, and you know that there's nothing in terms of like, there's nothing really different between you and a worker in terms of like, I don't know how to explain this, but you're not more inferior than a worker. You're just younger, and you haven't been here as much, or you haven't spent as much time as someone who's been working here for 9 years or 10 years. It really it helps shape the environment around you, because the environment can be different for different people. So that's what I also mean when I say you're in charge of your internship. I was able to, GE is a company that is very liberal in terms of, we're African and there's no calling a senior by your first name. But in GE, we're not allowed to call anybody Mr. or Mrs. We have to call them by their first names. So that was a shock to me. And I remember also being very scared that they were going to tell me to cover my hair in a weave or something like that, because I had natural hair at that time and my afro. And I remember walking in and then my boss is like, "Oh, nice hair." And I'm just thinking, where am I? What is going on? But it was that intersection between corporate but still personal, in a way that they're still working on, but they've managed to create a nice balance where the personal doesn't really come into the professional that much, but just enough that it makes you see a personal value in your work and a personal value as an employee. So I think that's what helped me in my own internship.
Just to add on what Sheila said, it's important that you actually understand what the environment is. For example, you might be at a company that their internship program is so developed and so integrated as part of the company that you don't even have to look for assignments. They will have assignments for you. Things will be coming to you all the time. You'll quickly be integrated as part of the process. Or you might find yourself at a company that you probably as an intern not that well integrated in the company and understand what you need to do so that you have a successful internship. So for example, at IBM managers, we are assigned to a manager, and the manager most of the time is responsible for your assignments and what you do during that time. But they tend to be very busy people. So if you don't take the initiative to request for activities and tell them when you're finished one that they gave you so that you get another one, you can find yourself that you're not fully occupied. So you have to put in that initiative to do that. But then you might find yourself at a company that the program is, you just at the moment you get there, you are assigned to a project and you are part of a team, off you go, which was my experience with Ascension Health. So the environment is going to be different. The most important thing is to understand what the environment is and figure out what you need to do so that you can achieve your goal during the time of the internship.
And just to add on that, I think one way to really do that would be coming into the office before your internship starts. I usually would come into my office like a day. I remember my first time working to G. I just came, emailed the recruitment person asking, is it okay if I can just come by into the office to see you and just to get a look? And then they were first of all, they were very pleased about that. They told me when I started working, but just walking in and understanding how people are receiving you, whether people are noticing you, how people are talking to you, the kinds of things that they point out about you or they ask you about. It helps you see what kind of environment it is, and it gives you some time to really see, okay, these are the kinds of people that work here, and this might be, sorry for the sound, this might be different from my personality. So how can I work? Like, how can I strategize to do it? And for instance, if these are people that are very outgoing and I'm not outgoing, does that mean that I should correspond to people more with email than or use more phone calls in terms of like my work and organizing a team? Just tangible things like that.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. This next question is again for Sheila and for Ability. How do you vet internships that you like that come early in the year versus the ones you really want coming later in the year? There's always that worry of turning something down in the fall and then not getting the one you hoped for in the spring. So how do you guys handle that process of thinking through your priorities?
I would say that if there's quite a lag time between when you hear on your first opportunity that you think you might not be interested in as much and the other opportunity, I've never been in that situation, but I would say if you find yourself in that situation, I think you could go ahead and accept the offer from that you have, and if something turns out, then you can figure out then what to do. I mean, I'm not sure if that is perfectly fine. It might upset somebody, but that's the approach I would think I would have to take. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think my 2 cents are very similar in the case of if you have an internship that if you've made that mind map that I spoke about in the beginning and you know what you want, or where you want to be and where you are now, and you know the kind of route that you want to take, it really articulates what your priorities should be. So if this one fills out the space for you, or if it filled out the space for you in the beginning, then and you can take it. And then if something really comes up and you've looked at your mind map again, and then this is just the best route for you. I don't think there's any harm in finding a way to deal, like to sort of take that new internship because, and that, for that part, I would say it's important to work with your ALF coordinator. They would definitely know the best routes to take to say, okay, fine, you don't want this internship, but you've already accepted it. How can we mitigate the sort of backlash that might come if you go back on your word? How can we explain to the people to say it's not that you're indecisive, it's just that something came up?
Mhm. Yeah, I would definitely say to get in touch with your ALF coordinator if there's an internship that you have an offer for, you're thinking about accepting, but you know you want to wait maybe for another opportunity. I would definitely ask them for advice. It is pretty hard once you've accepted to back out of them. Um, so I would definitely get in touch with your ALF coordinator or ACN coordinator beforehand. One thing just to think about to put all this in perspective for internships is, this is just for one summer, and if you take one internship and then you miss out on your dream internship, a lot of times there's always next year. So internships in that way are great. They're only a 3-month commitment. So unlike careers or jobs or maybe your junior summer internship, which has a little more weight, a lot of these, if you don't get the one that you definitely want, you can always feel free to apply next year. So just to keep that in perspective.
Perfect. So we are
Can I add
almost.
something there?
Oh, go ahead, Robin.
Sorry, just quickly, I was going to say, if that does happen and your ACN or your ALF coordinator thinks it would be a really bad idea for you to back out, it's often a good idea when turning down that dream internship that you want to just say to them, I'm so sorry, I accepted something else. Can we postpone to next year? And try and lock them down for another internship at a different time there and then, obviously with the help of your ALF and ACN coordinators to get that wording right. But it doesn't mean necessarily that you turning them down then means you're turning them down forever. So try and lock them in at that point.
Perfect. Thanks, Robs. So we are actually out of time now. Thank you, everyone, for all of those great questions. If you do have further questions, I would encourage you to get in touch with your ACN coordinator or your ALF coordinator or your MasterCard Foundation coordinator to talk through them. We are here to help, and we're excited about seeing some resumes and cover letters and talking through this process with you further. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.